The burden against Babylon is here. Lift up a banner on the high mountain. Raise your voice to them. Wave your hand that they may enter the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger, those who rejoice in my exaltation. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like that of many people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the army for battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, the Lord and his weapons of indignation, to destroy the whole land. Wail, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore all hands will be limp, every man's heart will melt, and they will be afraid. Pangs and sorrows will take hold of them. They will be in pain as a woman in childbirth. They will be amazed at one another. Their faces will be like flames. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he will destroy its sinners from it. For the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine. I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will halt the arrogance of the proud, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a mortal more rare than fine gold, a man more than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth will move out of her place. In the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger, it shall be as the hunted gazelle, and as a sheep that no man takes up. Every man will turn to his own people, and everyone will flee to his own land. Everyone who is found will be thrust through, and everyone who is captured will fall by the sword. Their children also will be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be plundered, and their wives ravished. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, who will not regard silver, and as for gold, they will not delight in it. And their bows will dash the young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye will not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride, will be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It will never be inhabited, nor will it be settled from generation to generation. Nor will the Arabian pitch tents there, nor will the shepherds make their sheepfolds there. But wild beasts of the desert will lie there, and their houses will be full of owls. Ostriches will dwell there, and wild goats will caper there. The hyenas will howl in their citadels, and jackals in their pleasant palaces. Her time is near to come, and her days will not be prolonged. Hello, everybody, and God bless you. Today, we're going to talk about NASA. Okay, now I'm on a website called spacedisclosure.com, as you can see, and we're going to hone in on a couple of different areas in relation to NASA that I feel are pretty important. Now, what I'm going to begin with is very interesting, and it also raises a lot of questions and so forth, and things that are worth thinking about, praying about, and just overall in general knowing about. So there's going to be a couple different items we're going to discuss. Okay, so first of all, this article says NASA, the modern day Tower of Babel. Now, I overlooked a few things in this article the first time I read it, so I went back and reread it because there's so much information that it gives you, and it is just really interesting and intriguing. So let's begin. It says, why would God undermine construction of the Tower of Babel but allow NASA to operate? And that is a very good question. When we go back in the Bible to the Tower of Babel, God halted that and he confused the language. Okay, and we know that the ruler was Nimrod. All right, so if God stopped the building of the Tower of Babel because of what they were doing, trying to reach the heavens, and we look at NASA today, NASA has gone above and beyond anything the Tower of Babel ever did. Why would God allow NASA, but yet halt the Tower of Babel? It says, surely NASA has made it closer to heaven than the Tower of Babel. This may sound like a tongue-in-cheek question, but it certainly gets you thinking about the parallels between what happened thousands of years ago and what is happening today in our modern culture. Now, thousands of years ago, mankind had united in defiance to God under the leadership of a great leader known as Nimrod, and I just mentioned him. Using an incredible array of construction technology for that period of time, a united humanity under the first one world government constructed a skyscraper that probably would have competed with many of the tallest man-made structures today. The CN Tower in Toronto, Canada, standing at 553.3 meters, that's 1,815 feet, was formerly the world's tallest completed freestanding structure on the land. It was then surpassed in height by the rising Burj Khalifa of Dubai on September the 12th of 2007. Now you can see here they've got a picture that shows you the different comparisons for the different towers and tall buildings and so forth. Whether the Tower of Babel had reached these heights before God came down to stop the construction, we do not know. However, we do know, had they been allowed to continue then, they would have clearly reached the clouds as well, which would have meant they would have developed ways to possibly deal with the altitude and lack of oxygen levels. Now, since the 20th century, NASA has been on an expedition to go beyond the clouds and conquer space. In December of 1968, the Apollo 8 mission laid out a milestone in the conquest of space by actually going to the moon and circumnavigating it for the first time. Being so far away from Earth, it also produced the first complete picture of our planet. Now, I am well aware that there is some conspiracy stories about whether or not the moon landing took place at all. Okay, I'm aware of that. But just so you know, because I will get commentators that want to make something I do, they'll take one small thing and point it out and make the whole video about that. This is just a mentioning in this article here. That is not what this video is about. Okay, this video is not about whether or not the moon landing happened. It's just about what we're talking about here, okay? All right, great. I just wanted to make sure that we understood that. All right, so it says, being so far away from Earth, it also produced the first complete picture of our planet. Since then, the human race achieved a long-sought goal, the exploration of the solar system. Men have set foot on the moon, and unmanned probes have visited every planet in the solar system. The next logical step is no longer to explore, but to colonize. The evolution of space travel can lead us to permanent settlements in outer space where we can establish communities in which pioneers will live in the new frontier, whilst the Earth suffers the consequences of man's industry through global warming. That is what they would have us to believe. Here's the question. Is there a biblical mandate to explore and colonize space? Okay, that's the question again. Is there a biblical mandate to explore and colonize space? With so many unsolved problems on our own planet, why should humans commit themselves to space exploration? Why should time and trillions of dollars be dedicated to designing spacecraft and technological solutions to explore outer space when the same money could be used to provide for the urgent necessities that we are facing here on Earth, such as famine, disease, and poverty, and, well, also a severe drought out in California? Okay, motive, corrupt and evil. Okay, so to answer the questions just raised, we had to discover and find out what is the motive behind the space race and what were the circumstances around how NASA was conceived. Okay, so this is the root of where lies the answers to all of these questions. This would then help provide some context as to whether the present and rapid development of space technology is something that is for the good of mankind or something that has a completely different motive and agenda to what we are led to believe. 160 pages later, and thousands of hours of research later, we have come to the conclusion that there is more than meets your eye when it comes to who NASA are and what they represent, and it's not good. Now, I happen to already know some of that. I did a post a long time ago. Well, I say a long time ago, about maybe a year ago. To me, that seems long now. But I did a post on that, and NASA's roots come from witchcraft. That's right. The establishment of NASA was based on Luciferian occult. Let's read further and see what this article says, though. So it's not what meets the eye, okay? There's more when it comes to who NASA are and what they represent, and it's not good. If it is not for good, then this means that we could witness in the future a deja vu of what happened over 3,000 years ago with the Tower of Babel, where the plans of NASA will lead them into an almighty confrontation with the creator of the universe. Now, it says that the disclosure on what is really happening with NASA and the space exploration race has been increased dramatically through evidence provided by people who used to work for NASA and various government agencies linked to the development of technology for space exploration. No longer do we need to depend on circumstantial evidence or civilian eyewitness accounts. Now we have access to classified documents, classified video footage, and interviews with some of the most respected researchers within the space exploration community. Now, unlike any other time in history, we are truly able to understand how the space exploration sector falls into the one world government agenda and how it will fulfill Bible prophecy. Okay, so now we've got information we're going to learn about how this falls into the whole New World Order, one world government agenda, and how does NASA pertain to Bible prophecy? Well, let's take a look at some more of this article. NASA Disclosures, a spiritual phenomena. NASA Disclosures is a 7-part report that pulls back the veil on the true agenda behind the world's leading space programs and will link it to the fact that the secret mission is controlled and directed by he who is called the Prince of the Power of the Air. Now think about that. Think about what NASA does. They have everything to do with outer space. What is Lucifer, or Satan rather? He was Lucifer until he got booted out of heaven, then he became Satan. Okay, so who is the Prince of the Power of the Air? Satan. What does NASA do? Well, in a sense, here on Earth, they're like the Prince of the Power of the Air. They have everything to do with space travel and so forth. Throughout the Bible, there are clear references to spiritual strongholds in high places. The fact that very high areas manifest a high degree of demonic activity is no arbitrary phenomenon. As Asian Studies Edwin Benbaum observes, people have traditionally revered mountains, places of sacred power and spiritual atonement. Now, something I would like to add, if you think about Mount Hermon, and I did a huge post on that about a year ago. Mount Hermon is where the fallen angels, okay, after they had rebelled against God, 1/3 of the angels rebelled with Lucifer at the time. And then they were booted out of heaven and they landed on Mount Hermon. And that is kind of where they ruled from. In fact, when Jesus asked the disciples, "Who do you say that I am?" He was actually getting them to proclaim him the Messiah right there in front of the statue Pan, which is a statue of Lucifer, right at the base of Mount Hermon. So Jesus was trying to make a statement to the demonic powers right then and there. Okay, Mount Hermon. Think about it. Okay, so let's go on with the article. The Himalayan mountain range may represent the world's densest concentration of spiritism. In all of the nations skirting these icy behemoths, Nepal, India, Bhutan, China, Pakistan, and Tibet, overt demonic manifestations are commonplace. According to eyewitness accounts from long-term resident missionaries in Nepal, Christian workers have been bitten with resultant puncture wounds and had food supplies eaten by evil spirits. On other occasions, mysterious lights perched atop high mountain peaks have come hurtling down toward their residences only to be driven off by urgent rebukes in the name of Christ. In Scripture, certain spiritual strongmen are actually referred to by the territories they control from a high location. Now, if you remember Daniel, and the article is going to mention this, the Prince of Persia. The Prince of Persia was not a physical earthly prince. This was a demonic prince that ruled over that particular area that the angel actually had to wrestle. And that's why he was late getting to Daniel with a message from God. Okay, so these include the Prince of Persia. You can look that up in Daniel 10:13. The Prince of Greece, Daniel 10:20. The King of Tyre, that's in Ezekiel 28:12. And the Spirit of Babylon, which is in Revelation 17:3-5. In other cases, evil powers have assumed the identity of territorial deities such as Bel and Babylon, Jeremiah 51:44, Beelzebub of Ekron, 2 Kings 1:2-3, and Apollyon of the bottomless pit, Revelation 9:11, or Abaddon. Okay, Apollyon, I believe, is the Greek form of the word Abaddon. The Bible confirms that not only is the world's creation the results of the invisible spiritual realm, but the spiritual realms are involved in conflicts taking place in the physical, according to Ephesians. My take is everything happens in the spirit first. That's why God, throughout the Bible, is so on it about telling us to have faith and how our words and everything that we speak are important. Everything we do spiritually and say and think and speak and so forth is also important because we are actually creating what's going to happen in the physical by what we do in the spiritual. The spiritual world is actually more real than the physical. Everything you see in the physical is a clear, vivid manifestation of what took place first in the spiritual. Okay, let's read that verse in Ephesians 6-12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Okay, so we don't fight against other physical things or people. We actually fight principalities, powers, and rulers of the darkness of this age against spiritual hosts of wickedness. What does a host do? A host, like if you go to a restaurant, a host seats you. They greet you and they seat you and they take care of you. Okay, so against spiritual hosts of what? Wickedness. They're not there to do good. But where are they? They're in heavenly places. Okay, let's move forward. NASA disclosures carefully shows that what is perceived to be man's astonishing advances or advancements in space exploration is actually being controlled by beings whose domain are on the periphery of the Earth's atmosphere. Because of the volatile and dangerous nature of this phenomena, the government has sought to conceal this in the interest of preventing the worldwide panic epidemic. However, whilst the growing vocal roar of disclosure movements is forcing NASA and various national governments into a tight corner regarding lack of disclosure, it is also important that there is another reason for the space exploration program which trumps and sits on top of all other conjectures and reasonings. This plan is a deceitful and elaborate strategy with one ultimate agenda, one hardly mentioned by any disclosure movement. See below for further insights into this massive and startling insight from Rhema Marketing. Okay, now they show you here. Number one, NASA disclosures, corrupt influences. Truth is the pillar of civilization. The word truth occurs 224 times in the King James Version of the Holy Bible. Witnesses testifying in American courts and before the United States Congress must swear to tell the truth. And laws and civil codes require truth in advertising and in business practices, to list just a few examples. The purpose of science is to discover the true nature of Earth and universe and to convey that knowledge truthfully to people everywhere. Science gives birth to technology that makes our lives easier and better. Science improves our health and enables us to see our world in ways never before envisioned. It uplifts spirits and engenders optimism. And science provides a truth standard securely anchored in the properties of matter, a means to expose and debunk the charlatans and science barbarians who would lie, cheat, steal, and tyrannize under the guise of science. But then there is NASA. Okay, for what reason did Jack Parsons, the leader of rocket technology in the United States, fall foul of the FBI, considering his significant rocketing accomplishments? Which part of America was home to some of the worst psychochemical experiments conducted on American soldiers? Which part of America was home to some of the worst psychochemical experiments conducted on American soldiers, and how is this linked to many of NASA's original scientists? What is the link between NASA, the assassination of JFK, and the American Orthodox Catholic Church, which families from 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati were involved as message bearers of the Council of Nine? Now, those are some interesting questions they raise here in regards to the NASA disclosures and the corrupt influences. I was at the store today and I came across a magazine. Let me go grab it real quick. Okay, it's just across the room here. It's from Life magazine. It says The Hidden World of Secret Societies, an illustrated history of the most mysterious organizations. And I have not looked at it yet. I skimmed through it, but I'm going to be definitely looking through that and sharing some things with you from that publication. Number 2 on NASA disclosures, Masonic footprints. The year was 1969. In what appeared to most eyes as the most monumental and technologically incredible feat in human history, man had walked on the moon, blasting from Earth into space. NASA's Apollo 11 craft, carrying aloft 3 heroic astronauts, sat down on the moon's dusty surface. A breathless and ecstatic audience, numbering in the billions, were glued to their TV sets and radios. Now, if you're one of those people that was, alive back then to experience that, I'm sure you remember. I myself was not. I'm 42 years old, so that's not something I was around for, but I heard about it, of course, growing up. Then they heard those historic words from the astronauts, "The Eagle has landed." Shortly thereafter, these same throngs of well-wishers saw Commander Neil Armstrong step out into the lunar environment and state the historic phrase, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." True, a small replica of our proud U.S. flag was dutifully carted off the Eagle lander and posted for all to see. But then, a strange ritual of an entirely different sort, of a dark and ominous character, took place at Tranquility Base on the moon. It was not beamed to the Earth via television, for this ritual was carefully crafted beforehand as a secret ceremony to be hidden and seen only by the eyes of the adepts of the Illuminati and its Masonic fraternity. What has been the significance of the evolution of the NASA logo over the last 56 years? How has Freemasonry achieved global influence across all the world's space agencies, What really happened on the moon after the landing of the Apollo 11 crew? How has Stanley Kubrick's movie 2001 Space Odyssey represented all of the occult principles which underpin NASA today? Okay, so it just keeps going down with different little clips, and then it poses some questions, not really giving us the answers here. Talk about NASA disclosures, hacking, whistleblowers, and disclosures, space shuttle conspiracies, underworld projects, Vatican cosmology. Many of you heard about Chris Putnam and Tom Horn with the whole Lucifer telescope over at the Vatican. Very interesting. The final agenda. How has the space arms race evolved? What event took place at the United Nations in October of 2013, which discussed global resolutions to address the protection from the Earth from destructive asteroids, such as the one which landed in Russia 8 months earlier? What evidence is there that high locations on the Earth are associated with increased levels of paranormal and supernatural power? Why will the domain of Satan in the future be restricted by God from the first and second heavens to just being on Earth? Is there a strategic plan behind this? Okay, now it goes on. It says, waive your Fourth Amendment rights or be denied access. Something significant is going on with NASA and the Department of Homeland Security that they don't want the public to know about. Is there? Is there really something they don't want us to know? Well, of course there is. The government does not reveal everything to us for many reasons. Sometimes it has to do with panic. Thanks to the Department of Homeland Security back in 2007, during the latter part of the Bush administration, an order went out to all workers at the Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena. All employees of this organization, which is run under contract by NASA by the California Institute of Technology, had to be vetted for high security clearance in order to continue doing their jobs. Many of these scientists and engineers were running the Mars rover exploration program, the Cassini probe orbiting Saturn, and the Kepler satellite, which has been discovering new planets outside the solar system. In order to continue working at JPL, even scientists who had been with NASA for decades were told they would need a high-level security badge just to enter the premises. To be issued that badge, they were told they would need to agree to undergoing an intensive FBI check that would look into their prior life history right back to college. Who would blame the many scientists and engineers at JPL who took this as an extreme invasion of their privacy? To get their clearance, security agencies were going to contact their neighbors and old colleagues to be interrogated about their drug use, drinking habits, arrest records as kids, all the countless things that are looked into when doing a high security background check. Why would NASA scientists be subject to the same prying invasion of their privacy that they would get if they were applying for jobs in the CIA or the Secret Service? Everyone who wanted to continue doing space science at JPL was told they had to submit to a security investigation. Now, the cost of this ultimatum, which was aggressively pursued to a final victory in the High Court by the Obama Department of Justice, has been grievous, as some 100 veteran scientists at JPL have quit or taken early retirement rather than open their lives to the FBI. What in the world are NASA and the Department of Homeland Security hiding? Every day lately, we're learning more and more via NASA's own photos. Something big is going on up there, which I'm going to show you some things here. The security obsession being displayed by NASA and the DHS is just more proof that something is going on. What is it they have found and that they want to restrict access to even within NASA? Find out the truth behind this massive covert operation. The NASA disclosures report crashes through all of the key elements of this terrible deception to provide key answers to deep-rooted questions involving the evidence of former NASA employees, hackers who were prosecuted, military personnel, and top researchers. Okay, so we've got all these things going on in NASA and in our government. And it's like, what secrets are they keeping and why? Why are they being so secretive about everything? Well, there are reasons. Now, I'm not sure what reasons they're pointing out here necessarily, probably many reasons. But I want to know why they've come up with this whole asteroid watch program. Okay, and why are they now wanting to do this? We're planning to shoot an asteroid to see what happens. What's up with that? Where's this obsession suddenly? We had a close flyby today, and it was one that really was of concern to the experts. They said probably nothing would happen, but it was disturbing that it flew so close to the Earth, and I guess the size, in relation to the size of it, and that it was so close. Now, when you have the experts getting concerned and something like that happening, even if, nothing happens, whether or not something happens is irrelevant to the point that I'm making. God, the true one, almighty God, is definitely trying to make a statement. Things are happening. God is trying to speak. God shows us things differently than what we show people. When we want to tell somebody something, we tell them. God has his own forms of communication. The Bible specifically says that our ways are not his ways are not our ways. We're completely different. We are the creation. He is the creator. He is trying to wake us up. The Bible tells us there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars. Now, interestingly enough, the original Hebrew word for stars is asteroid. Interesting, huh? Let me pull that up on the screen to show you. Okay, right here, English for students. The root words are aster and astro, which come from the Greek astron, which means star. This is an important one in our times, as no one is more in the public eye than the astronaut. Okay, so the word astro, comes from the word star, thus you have asteroid. So if you think about it, when you think about an asteroid, when the Bible says there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, is God telling us also to watch for asteroids? What other types of signs could there be in the stars than an asteroid? Okay, so we've got all these flybys flying close to Earth, and then suddenly this one today, let me just take you to that article. I'll just show you a little blurb of what it says. It says, huge asteroid capable of wiping out the entire country is on a near collision course with Earth. It says a mammoth asteroid measuring 1,000 meters wide is on course to narrowly miss the Earth within days, NASA predicts. The object, called 2014 YB35, is predicted to skim the Earth on Friday, traveling at more than 23,000 miles per hour in space. It is not unusual for small meteorites to pass close by. However, one of this size is a very rare occurrence and poses a very real threat, an expert told The Express. Any impact would trigger devastating changes in the climate, earthquakes, and tsunamis. Now, right now we've got a bunch of people warning about earthquakes, tsunamis, and asteroids. We've got Prophet Ephraim. We've got John Shorey. We've got Perry Stone was just on Sid Roth. I posted that video recently about a recurring dream, and he feels it's going to happen soon. We've got events being prophesied for September, the economic crash coming first, and then after that, something terrible. And many people feel it is an asteroid, and we've got NASA suddenly creating this near-Earth object program. And we've got this close flyby. We've got all these prophecies saying the same thing. And now we've got an interest in shooting an asteroid to see what happens. Why are they obsessing over asteroids all of a sudden? What is being kept from us? So let's take a look at this story here. We're planning to shoot an asteroid to see what happens, published April the 1st, 2015. Now, this article states, what better way to understand how to deflect an incoming asteroid than to smash into one to see what happens? Well, this may sound like the storyline to a certain science fiction movie involving a team of oil drillers, but this is science fact. And Europe has started planning a mission to map a small target asteroid that NASA will attempt to shoot with a speeding spacecraft, no nukes required. Yes, this will be the mother of all asteroid missions that will see the collaboration of international space agencies unite to tackle an ever-present global threat. So without delving too much into this article to make it longer than this video already has become, why this near-Earth object program, we have NASA, who in comparison is like the Tower of Babel. We know that there is some satanic involvement. We have the prince of the power of the air, as we went over in the very first article. What's going on? And then we've got Prophet Ephraim and other people warning about tsunamis and asteroids hitting and so forth. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, here is an article I did back in February on the 23rd. Urgent warning, the greatest, most tragic event ever prophesied in our day coming this year. It is estimated 35 to 40 million people will die. It is time to repent and prepare. God will not be mocked. Now, it talks about Prophet Ephraim's prophecy in which he is stating that an asteroid will come. He says it's not wormwood or anything like that, but it is going to come in order that people will repent. And this asteroid's going to cause tsunamis. Okay, now I did post some clips from other articles like the Express News in UK. It says scores of giant asteroids are on course to hurtle close to Earth before the end of February. According to the latest NASA space data, NASA said it is aware of 1,552 potentially hazardous asteroids in outer space, which show an orbit dangerously close to swiping Earth. And we just had that one today that you know about, and I discussed that with you earlier in this video. The warnings come after scientists from around the world converged at the end of last year to raise the alarm that there are around 1 million undetected asteroids currently flying through space. They said without better technology and means of deflection, one could hit the Earth and trigger a disaster similar to the collision which killed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. It just takes one asteroid to completely destroy life, not just humanity, but all species. Here's another one. Just recently, Perry Stone. We see on Before It's News, dire message to Christians, just released from Perry Stone, major warnings about what's ahead. Repeated visions of a tsunami in America. Okay, now it says, with Bible prophecy literally on the brink of complete fulfillment and the blood moons on the horizon, evangelist Perry Stone has just released a critical warning that should not be taken lightly. God has shown Perry many visions in the past, all of which have come true. And with a track record like that, there is no doubt in my mind that what he envisions about our future could very well come to pass. I highly encourage you to watch the video in its entirety. He covers everything from Israel to blood moons to a repeated vision of a coming tsunami to the resurrection of the Holocaust. Here is the urgent message. Now, if you haven't listened to it, you need to check it out. This right here is Lisa Haven's article, just posted on April the 1st of this year on this matter. Now, what could cause a tsunami? Well, we also discussed previously, I read it to you in one of these articles, that an asteroid, here, let me just pull that article up so we can be perfectly clear. 1 second, let's get to it. Let's see, just a minute, let me find it. Okay, here it is. This article I showed you on True News, and it's linked, it's a blurb or an excerpt from another article where it says any impact would trigger devastating changes in the climate, earthquakes, and tsunamis. Could all these things mean something? Should we be paying closer attention here to what's going on? Those of us who are close to Christ, we know that we're living in the end times. We know it. Okay, the Bible in fact says that to the unbelievers, this day will come as a thief in the night. But to those who are watching and awake, we will know when we are in that season. And God's people know that we are in that season. And we've got all these people saying different things that all are about the same thing, so to speak. And it's quite intriguing. And it's fascinating to see how God is really sounding the alarm. Well, why is God doing that? God's doing that because he wants us to be prepared. He wants people to repent. He doesn't want tragedy to come to anyone. But these things have to happen in order that Bible prophecy will be fulfilled. And now that you really have a better understanding about NASA and their agenda and where they come from, how they originated, okay, it's very evil. Our government in itself is very evil. Okay, that is not a conspiracy theory. This whole thing about the Illuminati and the Luciferian, that is a fact. They're Freemasons. Go look up and study Freemasonry. Okay, Luciferian all the way, which is the Nephilim bloodline. That's in the Bible. That's not conspiracy either. We have got all these things happening, and people don't want to believe it. What's it going to take? What are you going to do? All I'm asking you for, and all these people that are coming out with this, they're not asking you for anything except to prepare. So what's the motive here? The motive is that people just want you to be prepared and they want you to pray. That's it, pretty much. Pray and be prepared. So what have you got to lose? Nobody's asking you for anything. Just to be prepared. Pray about this. I mean, you can sit by and pretend it doesn't matter and that it may not happen or that it's not going to happen. But if you prepare and pray about this, what are you going to lose by doing that? So that's all that this is about. There are some real events happening that are fulfilling Bible prophecy. It's obvious. And just like Jesus himself said about the days of Noah, there was the naysayers, the mockers, and the scorners. And we've got a whole slew of that going on, even in the Christian community. So I would just ask you right now to take heed, be warned, be ready, be prepared. Don't be taken by surprise. Okay? Let's see what happens. I would urge you to watch and this is going to be different. It's not going to be like all the rumors you've been hearing. I believe that first, the economy will collapse. And this is going to happen in September at the end of the Shemitah cycle. It's going to be different than any other time. Even many of the people that have been saying, oh, whatever, are going to know. They're going to admit it. This is going to be far different. So the economy is going to collapse. After the economy collapses, shortly thereafter, then we're going to have something great. Something that is going to potentially cause a tsunami, earthquakes. Could it be this asteroid? Let's just watch and see and pray. Again, that's all I ask. Thank you very much for your kindness, your love, your prayers, and your support. God bless you.